The most significant issues that are dealt with on a sort of ongoing basis by the Senate are matters having to do with rights, the rights of citizens. We have to make sure that things like anti-terrorism acts aren't done without proper thinking. I'll give you another example. After 9/11, Canada needed to put into place, because of the emergent situation, an Anti-terrorism Act. And the first one was called the Anti-terrorism Act. And it was passed quite quickly through, and needed to be passed quite quickly through the House of Commons, came to the Senate. Because of the urgency, we made the unusual, ordinarily it comes from the House of Commons, and the Senate doesn't deal with it until it's been passed by the House of Commons, and then we deal with it. Because of the urgency of that situation, we began to study the bill as soon as it was introduced in the House of Commons. We studied it at the same time, and in fact our report was ready before the report of the House of Commons. And one of the things that the Senate picked up on was that there were things in that bill, there are things in that bill, which allow the government, the police, the authorities, to do things to people which in ordinary other circumstances and before 9/11 and before Air India are the things at which my uncles and our grandfathers fought wars to make sure would never happen in this country. It allows the government to publish lists of people. You know, we're going to put your name on a list of people. It allows people to be jailed without a charge. You know, it's fundamentally opposite to the concept of British law, which governs our rule of law, and the Americans' rule of law too, which is you have to charge somebody with something. You have to tell them why you're putting them in jail. The terrorism law allows that not to happen. It allows a person to be imprisoned without a charge and held for a while. The Senate said, in talking to the government, and I will come back to that point in a minute, in talking to the government, the Senate said, you know, there are things in here that are anathema to Canadians. And we understand that they have to be there for now. And they did have to be there for now. But there has to be some kind of sunset clause on these, because maybe we won't need them forever. Or at the very least, there has to be a review of these things. And the government said, there isn't time for all of this nonsense, and we won't accept any amendments, so just pass the bill. Well, very often the Senate changes law by whispering in the right ear at the right time in the right circumstance without having to actually amend it or change it or defeat it. And in this case, what the chair of that committee did was to go to the Prime Minister and say, Prime Minister, if you don't put in either a sunset clause or an automatic required review provision into this law before it comes to us, then we will certainly put it in when it comes to us, which means that it's going to take us a few weeks to do that, and we'll send it back to you, and that's going to take another few weeks. And if you want this law in a hurry, you'd better change that. So the government introduced amendments in the House of Commons which provide that that law has a 5-year automatic review by Parliament to make sure, do we still have to be able to do this to people? How often have we done this to people? The reason that that provision is in that law is because the Senate insisted upon it. Sir Clifford Sifton, who was the Secretary of the Interior, he was the guy who invented the Last Best West campaign that went to Europe and convinced Europeans, particularly Central Europeans, to come to Canada and to populate this part of our part of the world. Because if we hadn't done that, we'd all be Americans now. Sir Clifford Sifton made the point that the Senate is not there to be a bulwark against excesses of the House of Commons. It is there to be a bulwark against the excesses of the government. And he was right, and he was right then, and he's right now. And that's what we most significantly do. Has the government, in introducing this bill, and has the House of Commons in studying it, taken into account all of the implications of it? Have they followed it down? How is this actually going to work? Are there unintended consequences? Is somebody going to get sideswiped by this bill that wasn't intended to be? Does it actually do what it says that it's going to do? Those are the issues that face the Senate most often.